We'll call this meeting of the City Council to order. This is the October 4, 2022 meeting. The clerk will note that all council are present except for Councilor Evans, who is excused with illness. We don't have anybody to provide a prayer tonight, but I want to use this moment to express our condolences for the loss of community member Chris Gugumas. He provided the city with a wonderful concert series in the park since 1995. And so on behalf of all of us up here in the city, I would like to express condolences to his friends and family and note that he created an environment for citizens to make wonderful memories over the past 27 years. I really appreciate all that Chris did for us. Music is the literature of the heart. It commences where speech ends. That's a quote from Alphonse de Lamartine. And with that, I would ask Woody to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll join us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Does council have any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, announcements from the council. We'll just keep moving on. Consent calendar?
Mr. Mayor, seeing that there's no comments, I would like to move for approval of the consent calendar as presented, including Resolution 22045.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Yes, Councilor.
Me. Thank you.
Councilor you.
Me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You.
Councilor Buchan.
So I'm going to comment on resolution, item 5, which is the resolution 22045, item A. This is a parking agreement between the same guy who owns two different parcels downtown, who owns the one lot that's at the northeast corner of, let's see, it's 3rd and Front, and that used to be the old U.S. Bank parking lot, and then it's going to be that new tower, and we don't. That's by right, and then he owns the U.S. Bank building, and one of the things that's happening here that concerns me, not enough to vote against it, but I just want to bring this to light, is that part of the agreement is to swap 5 parking spaces in the new tower for the lot, the front side of the lot, which is the old U.S. Bank building. And this concerns me because we're running out of parking spaces downtown. It's getting tougher and tougher to park. I've been contacted by one of the lessees of the McEwen Tower, and they have a business in there. They don't have enough parking for their employees. That's because when the McEwen Tower was put in, it didn't have enough parking spaces. The parking requirements were waived, as were the parking requirements for this building. And we're not talking about waiving parking requirements. We're talking about a swap here. But in the new Thomas George Tower, there are adequate parking, according to city code, for all the residential units, but there's no parking for any of the commercial units. Now there's 5 less. And this is a serious issue. We have our downtown parking regulations should be looked at by this council. I've been pushing for that for a long time. Right now, there's a development, I think, going up in downtown where there's 16 units and 16 parking spaces. And because, they're all going to be single people who just own one car, and that's unrealistic. There should be adequate parking downtown, or we're going to lose downtown because no one's going to come down here to park. This kind of horse trading, if you read the agreement, so they're getting 5 garage units for one lot in the other lot, which is 5 fewer parking spaces. If they want to, in the future, we're going to give them the right to just go ahead and buy those parking spaces by giving the city $10,000 per space, which means the spaces are gone, and we have 5 fewer parking spaces downtown. this is going to be a real serious issue, and I've talked to Mr. Tymeson and the mayor about it. At some point in time, if we want downtown to continue to be successful, we're going to need to build another parking garage. We're talking about a bond, maybe $50 million to build an adequate-sized parking garage so that people can come down here and find a place to park. And I just wanted to bring this to council's attention, and I was hoping that maybe there would be some interest in looking at our downtown overlay district and saying, can we address the parking issues? So that if someone wants to put in a tower and they're going to have commercial space, that there's adequate parking for everyone who wants to work in that building. That would seem like a real simple thing to ask. I would be interested if anyone else on council would be interested in perhaps having a discussion about that in the future.
I just have a question. Did you review the dates of the projected parking study that we did a few years back? I feel like we paid an extensive amount of money and had some pretty good data about what the parking needs would be projected into the future, and have we reached those dates, or did you incorporate that into your thought?
No, I didn't. I knew that we had the parking study. That was a general study that was just street parking and regarding the existing parking lots. And I don't recall if there was anything about projection of, new towers coming in downtown, or just the general fact that, you want to create a livable, I understand the livable downtown thing, and I think that would be cool, but you also got to have services if you want people to live downtown. And you have to have a place for people to park. Biking is great, walking is great, all that stuff is good, but we're going to need parking, and I think the sooner we get ahead of this, the better. So, I'm not just picking on these guys, this is just because it's come to us, and it became a good opportunity for me to talk about it.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. In one of my other elected roles, we always had educational items on our agenda, and I think that'd be a perfect one to have on the agenda and actually review it. And then from there, if we want to talk about bringing it back for action or sending it off to committee, that's great. But I'd certainly support an information item. Bring it forward, let us understand. And I'll get my hands on the study that you've talked about, Kiki.
Dan?
Well, yeah, I think it would be good for discussion. That was only a few years ago that we had that, and, and urban renewal was involved with that, and we've gotten some reports, and, the new parking garage has been very active and it's being used, so I think we absolutely should be trying to stay ahead of the parking. So I think it's a good discussion or an education item for sure.
Woody?
Just a quick question, Dan. I kind of spun through this myself. It seemed all lawyery. So, Randy, we talked a little earlier. Maybe you could kind of explain how you explained it to me. This deal looked one way to me, but it really wasn't. Would you mind just sort of addressing clarification?
On the spot.
Can you first of all explain Woody's question?
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry, that happens when I follow English,
So the U.S. Bank building on Sherman and Third had no parking on its lot. It was using the lot where the tower is going to go. Since the tower is being built, we're requiring that the U.S. Bank still have the required parking. The way that's being handled is that the tower is going to give or reserve a certain number of spaces for the U.S. Bank building and pay the city per code a fee in lieu of parking spaces for 4 spaces. So there is a loss of 4, if you will, but the U.S. Bank building is currently not being occupied. We don't know what's going to happen to that. It may stay, it may change, it may go away.
Perhaps, Troy, at another council meeting, you can put on the agenda a refresher course on that study and maybe an update of some sort. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Dan.
Will the clerk take the roll, please?
Wood,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers,
Yes.
Gookin,
Yep.
English.
Yes.
We have 2 people signed up for public comment tonight. The first is Joe Alfieri. Joe, welcome to the meeting.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Mr. Mayor, you stole some of my thunder by talking about Chris Gugamas. That was my purpose for addressing you all. And Chris certainly enriched the lives of the city and the community with his free concert series. And I think it's only appropriate that the city, having redeveloped the park on Sherman, where so many of his concerts were held, ask that that park be renamed in his honor. And I understand that the city is not the owner of the park, is that right?
That's correct.
It's owned by the Rotary or whoever it is, but I really think that it is appropriate that you make a motion that that park be renamed in Chris's honor.
Thank you.
If I, could I address that?
Pardon?
Could I address that?
Well, let's wait. Justin?
Good evening, Council. My condolences, and I hope that Amy feels better as well. So we recently closed down our Urban Renewal District, and I wanted to congratulate Council on doing so. Now, we have some urgent matters on that, but first I wanted to kind of give a brief synopsis of the Urban Renewal District. Essentially 25 years of crony capitalism now in the history books. We can finally reap the benefits. I believe upon closure of the Urban Renewal District, we begin to start collecting money that we lent out for it, and we're going to need to determine as quickly as possible how we're going to spend that money. We got that money through tax increment financing. It is estimated that the urban renewal districts raised property taxes, I believe, by 7%. Because it was so hated, the local urban renewal agency, LCDC, had to change its name. It spent $50,000 on a study for that, and I always love when we spend money for those types of studies. We, of course, changed it to Ignite, which is more cutting edge, with a nice logo. The agency has received hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayer money, and we did this with a deliberately vague plan. Essentially, the deal was, hey, taxpayer, you give us hundreds of millions of taxes, and we are going to make Idaho, California. I assume we put that money to good use, like, for instance, the survey we may or may not have done of the dogs in town about whether or not we needed the Riverside Dog Park. I love dogs. We get one at Central Planning Training Academy. Unfortunately, we have to put them down at the end of that, but that's a different story. Now, we also tapped into the universe, and we learned that although God put a beautiful lake here and also a beautiful river, we needed a man-made lake in town to attract mosquitoes, etc. I call these fascio lakes. We are selling the public on the notion that the public art, the objects, bring jobs. I don't know what economic school that is, but I like it. Speaking of jobs, thank you for the higher-end condos that we're building instead of the jobs. It makes it easier for me to meet with my assets at Central Planning, like Kim, Justin, and Reese, Kardashian, Bieber, and Witherspoon. Now, several times we needed to raise more money, and we did take it, so we should never be shy about that money. One council member called this an abuse of urban renewal. Now, I believe this council member was elected by being critical of urban renewal. I wonder, now that the urban renewal district is closed, can we unelect him? Can I make a motion on that? Second? Anyway, I believe this same council member also pushed for the parking structure downtown and all the parking stuff. We actually need to use the remaining urban renewal districts to just get rid of the roads and replace them all with bike lanes. But I think most importantly, now is the time for us to decide, how do we start spending the money that's coming in from the urban renewal district? More art? All the art. Any other ideas are more than welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan, you wish to address the...
Well, just that I certainly appreciate the thought for Chris and remembrance. Now, the Rotary Park was a very, involved, and they put in a lot and had naming rights and have things down there. On the other end, just that we do have, we have those couple of pocket parks down on East Sherman, and going to be using those for some things like that. So there might be some other opportunities, but the Rotary one, that's a great idea. Or maybe they could add to it something to commemorate. But anyway, those other parks might be something too, so.
Thank you. We certainly want to honor him.
Tim, is that appropriate for this?
You didn't use your whole minute, so go ahead.
I'm just wondering if the council can address the Rotary by letter or somehow and ask that they rename the park. I think it's entirely appropriate.
We can certainly do that.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor? If I
Yes.
can, I'll just address it too. The Rotarians are some of the kindest people you'll ever meet, and they probably would do some nice commemorative thing for Chris. If not, there's plenty of other organizations that will. But to tell them that we're going to rename their park, no, that wouldn't be
No,
appropriate.
I fully understand that the city does not own the park, but I think it is appropriate that the city go to the owners of the Park Rotary Club and ask that they rename it. And I think that, didn't the city pay for some of the redevelopment of that park as well?
We have contributed to that,
Yeah,
yes.
so,
Yes.
in any event, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution 22-406. Mike? How quickly can Mike do this?
Good evening, Mayor Hammond and council. That's my presentation. Does that work? No. All right, thank you for the opportunity on behalf of the wastewater to present our request to award a contract to rebuild some of our pumps. Originally installed in 1996, we have 3 specially designed pumps that convey partially treated wastewater to our trickling filters. Now, under normal conditions, these pumps operate in parallel, so 2 pumps run continuously with the 3rd serving as a backup. As you may recall, last year, pump number 3 broke down. We rebuilt it. We stuck it in there. It took about 7 months. Well, pump number 2 broke down. Luckily, we had pump number 3 put in place and is operational. So in lieu of finding ourselves in the same situation, because we have 3 pumps, we would like to go ahead and proceed with provisions to rebuild pump number 1. I know there's a whole bunch of different pumps, but I'll try to bear with me here. We solicited quotes, and we found out that given the economy and how things have shapen up, the prices then warranted us to go out to bid. So we went out to bid in August. September 9th, we only received 1 bid, despite the fact that we received multiple quotes for doing the work. We also have a provision in that bid package to replace the pump shaft. We don't know the condition of the pump shaft, and you won't know until you dismantle the pump, take it apart, inspect it. So we wanted that provision in place just in case we need to replace a shaft, we'll have money for that. We went ahead and budgeted accordingly, and we wrote up the work schedule for this. So I know it seems confusing, but pump 2 has to be rebuilt before we proceed with pump 1 or even removing pump 1. And then once pump 2 is in place, we'll start over with pump 1. That will give us 3 pumps that we have already gotten 30 years, almost 30 years out of these pumps, so we're doing great. The cost to replace these pumps with brand-new pumps is going to run the city roughly about $500,000 apiece. So it is more economical to rebuild these. The bidder that did bid on this project is a local bidder from Spokane. He's an existing vendor with the city. He's done work for the wastewater department. So combining all this information, stirring it together, and staff's recommendation is that we award the contract to K&N for the total price of $326,215.65. That includes that add alt for the shaft replacement. With that, I'll entertain any questions.
Well, I think there's a very prudent way to go. It's amazing that those pumps, because they do run continuously, lasted as long as they did. So I hope the council will approve this.
Would you like a motion, Mr.?
Yes. I'm waiting for a motion.
I'm not questioning it. So for the $300,000, that's the parts, the rebuild, and installation, full
Yes,
meal
what-
deal.
Yes. What we did is we're going to order the parts all at once for both pumps. We get an economy of scale by ordering twice as many parts. And they'll just hold on to them until we get pump number 2 operational, then we'll start all over with pump 1.
So if 27 years these things lasted, is the technology changed enough to where they can still rebuild stuff that's 27 years old? That's pretty cool if it works.
Well, it's a pump.
These, like I said, these are
Still
specially designed pumps. They're not off the shelf pumps. So we have been very fortunate to get the life that we have out of these. Normally, we cycle every 10 years, but these are, because of the way they're constructed and rebuilt in this case, we're getting outstanding life.
Nice job. Thank you.
Go
Do
for
you have a
it.
question?
A motion.
I was going to make the motion.
Go for it.
Thank you. So seeing that the alternative is just to hold it, I would like to move to approve Resolution 22046, which is approving an agreement with K&N Electric Motors Incorporated for the rehabilitation of trickling filter pump number 2 and number 1 in the amount of $326,215.65.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers,
Yes.
Gookin,
Yep.
English,
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
The next
Thank you, Mayor,
item
Hammond,
on
Council.
the agenda is an annexation. We've already heard this annexation, and this is the follow-up to that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
This was a split vote. This was actually your first vote on council
Yes.
at the meeting. This was a split vote, but the way we do things here is when council votes to move forward on it, we move forward on it. So I will make the motion, even though I voted against it back then. We'll make the motion to approve Resolution 047, sorry. Annexation agreement with Aspen Homes and Development LLC for the annexation of 5.9 acre parcel located at 1808 North 15th Street, zoning from County Ag Suburban to R1 and R5 zoning district.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Seeing no discussion, will the clerk take the roll, please?
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes.
Gookin.
Yep.
English,
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
And following up would be Council Bill 22-1014.
Yes, this is an ordinance, so I will make a motion to dispense with the rule and direct the clerk to read Council Bill number 22-1014 once by title only.
Take the roll, please.
We need a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. McEvers,
Yes.
Gookin,
Yeah.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
Would you please read the title?
Council Bill number 22-1014, an ordinance annexing to and declaring to be a part of the City of Coeur d'Alene, Kootenai County, Idaho, specifically described portions of Section 7, Township 50 North, Range 3 West, Boise Meridian. Zoning such specifically described property hereby annexed, repealing all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing a severability clause, providing the publication of a summary of this ordinance and an effective date hereof.
Thank you. Motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to adopt Council Bill 22-1014.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, will the clerk take the roll, please?
McEvers,
Yes.
Gookin,
Yep.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, Chief? Our next is approval of a purchase of 65 self-contained breathing apparatus and 80 masks for the fire department and Deputy Fire Chief Lucas Pichette.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Welcome,
I hope
Chief.
You're having a great night. I am here just to ask for approval of 65 SCBA's within the agreement with NPP-GOV, which is just a governmental cooperative procurement. It's basically giving us the best pricing and allowing us to select the best equipment for our needs.
Questions? Woody?
How long do these things last?
In between 10 and 15 years, it's pretty much their service life. Dependent on the packs themselves, right now the current packs are in a state of repair pretty frequently, so they're costing us a lot to keep maintained.
And this is a budgeted item?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Chief Pichette, can you just kind of tell us some of the dangers that firemen face without this kind of equipment?
Of course. Inside of a burning building or around even a dumpster fire, a car fire, there are some really, really bad smoke that can, just one breath of it can actually do long-term damage or even kill one of us. So it is probably the most vital piece of safety equipment we have.
Agree.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion, yes, to approve resolution number 22-048, approving the purchase of 65 self-contained breathing apparatus and 80 masks from IN Curtis through the Cooperative Purchasing Associate of NPP Gov.
Second.
We have motion to second. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers,
Yes.
Kukin.
Yes.
Welcome to the podium, our city administrator, Troy Tymason.
Good evening,
Another
Mayor.
proposed resolution.
Happy New Year, sir. It is a new fiscal year at the city of Coeur d'Alene, and we bring before you tonight for your approval and any questions you may have, an agreement that has been worked on by phenomenal individuals from our police association, combined with a city attorney that's done a yeoman's amount of work and a HR director. We are proposing and have agreed to a 3-year contract. Once you approve it, it would begin October 1st of this year, going through 2025. The challenge with our police association is the fact that we are struggling to find additional members of that great group of people. So in this contract, you will see flavored in here ways in which we are seeking to bring on phenomenal officers to keep our city safe. The 3-year contract includes a first-year increase to the cost of living of 8%, a second year of 4.5%, and a third year of 2.5%. The association also bargains for those that are non-sworn, and in this contract, we are proposing to mirror what is in the LCEA, Lake City Employees Association contract. So it takes their raises, spreads it out over the entire term that the raises occur. So that's not new to the city, and we anticipated that would come forward. We are also looking, and you've already approved an incentive program, we are beefing up the lateral program in this contract, that we would be able to bring new hires in that have been trained in other departments, looking to bring them online and pay them at a higher rate than was in the previous contract. So the other piece was we did some clarification of sick leave and bereavement leave, and we included in that cohabitating domestic partners. We also put together a new concept in a contract where we provide for the purchase of excess vacation for our police association members that are sworn. What happens here is they have to use 5 weeks or 200 hours. So part of our challenge when we're down in staffing is we don't have enough time for those officers to take time off. So we negotiated that in the event that they've used 5 weeks, they're not able to keep it under the maximum limit that's already in the contract, that we would pay them into basically a benefited account up to 40 hours at 80%. So we'll probably capture a few folks that have a lot of vacation time on the book. The association was very eager to make sure we have them represented in the event that we hire a police chief. There is nothing against the current chief, although the association did have some fun with this particular area, but there's nothing that we see in the future with our current chief. He was actually at the negotiation as well. We've made adjustments to military leave.
We know that that is a great group from which to recruit, and we put 100 hours into that benefit that never existed before. We've clarified language. Again, the city attorney did phenomenal work, tightened up employee work schedule notices, and clarified the procedure for personnel and internal investigations. And I would share with you, Mayor and Council, that the process for this department's internal investigations are exactly what our insurance company would like to see. We are if gold is the highest, it is the gold standard in the state on how an internal investigation is conducted. What we did in here, for your clarification, because you've all been a party to this, is in the event that it gets to a certain stage, we need to know that HR, legal, and administration is involved, and that was really the clarification. The policy they have is lengthy, arduous, and very, very balanced. So we were happy to get that in there. Again, you've been a party to this. This is a big piece of work in our year. I really feel good that it's coming together just at the start of our fiscal year. So I would stand for any questions you might have.
Questions? Yes.
Troy, I don't remember hearing about the military leave portion before. Can you expand on what that means?
Basically, we have a benefit that they can use up to 100 hours for military leave. So it's almost like a sick leave bucket. Our goal is to recruit out of that group, possibly entice laterals to come over now that that benefit exists.
So reserves and folks like that, they don't have to. Okay, I get it. I got it.
Don't have to use up.
Guard duty, got it.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor?
yes.
Just a compliment once again to my fellow council members who, you every year you come forward and you walk the talk and you put public safety first for our police and fire. And I really, really appreciate that commitment. I feel it from all of you. And we know that as much as we've done to try to really deal with the level of exhaustion and empty positions on the police department, this is going to take a little bit of while. I think you said there are 10 current openings, and I don't know if there's 4 in an academy, 5. And let's hope all 5 of them make it. That would be great. But it is very difficult to fill those spots. It's not a quick 2-week deal. It's months and months and months and months, and then you come out with an officer that you're thrilled to have on the force. So I appreciate the city team working hard on this, and the police association and the concessions that they've made all along. This is a serious commitment from this council for police and fire and for public safety, and so kudos to all of you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to dovetail on that. We have so many cities in this country where you have the elected officials defunding the police and literally at war with their own police department. It is so refreshing to see that this city, we support and respect our police department, all you guys, and the job you do. And hopefully this solves the personnel problem, and they can continue to do the tremendous work. Crime's down 60%. All we have to do is compare what's going on just right outside of us in the county and see what it's like to have an outstanding police force. Thank you.
Yep, agree.
Wouldn't you like to lead a motion here?
I would, thank you, Mr. Mayor, just for old time's sake. But I was on the other side, and I never got to just ask you to make this motion. Okay, I would motion to approve the resolution number 22-049, approving an agreement with the Coeur d'Alene Police Association, October 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
Wood,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers,
Yes.
Kukin,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Listen, while we're getting ready for the public hearing, Troy, you also put a lot of work into this, and I want to thank you for that. I want to thank the Police Association. And officers, before you leave, I want you to know that I very much appreciate all that you do for us, keeping us safe. You know, it means a lot. We take for granted sometimes, but this is a very safe community, and we wouldn't have that without you. So thank you very much for your service.
Great.
Okay, we have a public hearing, and we'll start out with a rapid presentation from Chris Bosley, our city engineer.
Thank you. Actually, there's a wager
Thank you,
going on in the
Chris.
back as to what time we're going to stop, so I really need to drag my feet on this one. So I come before you tonight for a public hearing on our 2022 LSIP project, which is the Local Highway Safety Improvement Project. And I'll just buzz through those slides real quick again to remind everybody what this is all about. It was a grant through the Local Highway Technical Assistance Council that we were awarded funding for 7 locations for rectangular rapid flashing beacons. Trying not to use acronyms for you. And those were based on crash locations around the city, and we took a systemic approach to that and put in several areas where we felt like they could be most beneficial. This is what they look like. This is the one on Harrison in front of Bryan Elementary, funded by Rotary. But these are the actual locations. We've got one here at Hanley Avenue and Madeline Drive. We've got another at Hanley Avenue at the Lake City School. That's the Maverick across the street. And currently, we're actually working on putting some rectangular rapid flashing beacons at the roundabout at Corsellis and Hanley. Hopefully, we'll have an article in the press next week about that. Other locations, Bosanko and Howard. This is at the top of the hill right behind Fred Meyer. And then we've got 3 locations on Riverstone Drive. Last time I was here, I was asked, isn't that a lot on this stretch? I actually looked into it just to see relatively, and Riverstone Drive is about the same length as 4th Street through Midtown, which is about equivalent in terms of pedestrian crossings. And then Best Avenue and 7th, we had already installed that one there. But we are putting in sidewalk along these stretches that have no sidewalk today, and that's where some of the utilities would need to move. So here's a sample from the plan set, and there are a couple utilities like Avista or the water department that would have to raise their meter boxes or relocate a pole, and we've been in communication with Avista on that. All utilities were notified back in August of this. And these are the possible actions according to the ITD manual for the Guide for Utility Management. This is the requirement of the ITD board, so that's why I'm here tonight. And I guess do we open this to public testimony at this time?
Yep. I will now open the public hearing. I will note that no one has signed up to testify at this public hearing. I will close the public hearing. And do you have any summary remarks, Chris?
No, I'm looking forward to getting this project done.
Yes.
So the motion isn't really to approve this, it's just to direct the city to contact the utilities and tell them to move their stuff.
Correct.
Okay, so we're
Which is
all
a
cool.
requirement anyway under the utility franchise agreements.
Oh, they must obey us.
Correct.
Well then. Okay.
Is that a motion?
So,
No, well then is not a motion. But I'll make the motion
I have a question.
after
quickly.
Woody's question.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Do the utilities pay their own way on this?
Yes, if they are within the right-of-way and we need to widen the roadway, then they have to pay to relocate those facilities. But if they were outside the right-of-way in their own easement and then they had to, we would have to pay to move those. I think that's the way that it works, but these are all within the right-of-way.
Okay. So they pay their own way on this one?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
So, I'll make a motion to require utility companies to relocate their utility facilities as required by the franchise agreement to accommodate the rectangular rapid flashing beacon project, key number 22874, or our city engineer will fiercely wag his finger at them.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, respond with aye.
Aye.
Opposed with nay. Motion carries.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, respond with aye.
Aye.
To opposed, motion carries. We are adjourned.